show. This is Bob. And that's all you get tonight. So it's just me, Bob, all by my lonesome. Miles is not here tonight. So I figured we'd just do a little bit of a recording and kind of fill you in on what's happening. So Miles' father passed away this week, and he's off taking care of family business. But I'm a compulsive person, and I figured I'd just go ahead and do a quick show no matter what. I don't know why exactly, but I just feel compelled to do so. I thought I'd talk a little bit about Miles' dad. So he was really a pretty big part of some things we talked about even recently. So I just look back at shows, and there's one from April 2022, 2 years ago, called Dad's Day Out, and Miles and his brother took their father out for the day, which was humorous. So you can look that one up on the show here, called Dad's Day Out. And then there's even one from September of 2022 called Monty Miles, about Miles purchasing a car, and his dad wasn't totally appreciative of what he wanted to have there. So he was a little bit shunned. He wanted a Monte Carlo, and then he got a Beretta, and there's a whole story about that. And it goes way back. Those are just two from like this last couple of years, about Miles's dad, and you know, he was a fixture in stories because Miles's pop was really quite a funny guy. He was always good for a joke, and always, you know, had something to say that was kind of funny. He was kind of I don't know what you call him. He was really quite a humorous fella. He always had something weird to say, it seemed like, and he was very much involved with working with people, and so he was always trying to make, you know, he was your best bud when he was hanging around, and always kind of made you feel comfortable. My story for Miles' dad is always that when I first met him, so Miles and I met in college a number of years ago, and I went up there to where Miles lived. We didn't live near each other at all growing up. So he's from the suburbs of Chicago, and I'm from the middle of the state of Illinois in Decatur. Anyway, I went up and saw him, and first thing I hit the door, Miles' pop is like, hey, you know computers, don't you? I always did like a Jackie Mason impersonation when I talked about Miles' dad. I don't know why. He just struck me as that kind of a guy. Jackie Mason, if you remember him, he's an old comedian. You know computers. And then he drugged me into his office at his house and wanted me to fix his computer. So that was my Now, I had met him, I think, before that at college, but I don't remember that interaction being half as interesting. It was more like, hey, this is my dad, you know, kind of a situation, as opposed to any kind of interactivity, because I was, you know, moving on to do something else. But he drags me into the office, and he's like, you know computers, can you fix this? And then he goes through this whole, you know, spiel about what's wrong with his computer. I'm like, yeah, I can take a look. So I did, and I think I fixed the problem pretty quickly. It wasn't anything that was overly difficult that I recall. And then, of course, I was the guy who fixes computers from that point on. But, I mean, just, you know, kind of a character all around. character of a guy, and he'll be missed. I'm sure. I know Miles is going to miss him, and a lot of his personality, Miles' personality, comes from his dad. They're very similar in their personality and approach to things, I think. I'm only assuming, I won't totally assume, but I think Miles' mooching abilities are part of his father's making as well. So, yeah. It's just kind of, everybody has to go through all this, and so it's really quite sad that these things happen. But it's inevitable, right? It's inevitable. But I do have a quick story that's not related to Miles' father. I'll let Miles, hopefully he'll, kind of go through his grief process, and he'll talk a little bit about his dad in the next few weeks, I'm hoping. So I'm sure he's got lots of stories that I should not tell at this point that I know about. Hopefully he'll tell them at some point. But I have a mortality story for you all. So I on Saturday I had to go into St. Louis City, and as you know, it's gotten nice weather, so things are picking up in the old construction trade, especially road construction. So on the way into the city, absolutely no problems whatsoever. But then on the way home, lots of road construction. In fact, the highway was shut down. It was completely shut down. Nobody going down the highway to the east. Couldn't head east, if you can believe that. You can go west, can't head east. And so I was on my way, and I thought, surely they didn't shut down the whole highway. And then to my surprise, they had. So I get on the highway with a bunch of other people who assumed the same thing, I'm guessing, or didn't. I mean, there wasn't a lot of signs or anything, but so then you have to get off you have to get off the highway. It forces you off the highway. You can't go any further. And the great part is it forces you straight into East St. Louis. Now, I don't know if anybody knows about the area here. So St. Louis is, larger city for the area, and we that's on the Missouri side, and then on the Illinois side they have what's called East St. Louis. Well, East St. Louis used to be a very thriving kind of metropolis of its own. They had at one point they had more cattle and processing of meat than I think just about anywhere outside of Chicago, which used to be the center of all meat processing. And over the years, back in like the late 60s, all that kind of went away. And so then East St. Louis kind of was hit with hard times back then, and it's never recovered. And so if you drive through East St. Louis, which I don't recommend really, it looks like, it's like all these dilapidated buildings and everything. Everything's fallen down. There's like new things in there sporadically, but a lot of the other stuff is just, degrading. And it looks terrible, right? And so I'm like, well, the detour is taking me through East St. Louis, which is not, it wasn't like at 2 o'clock in the morning or anything. It was just in the afternoon. And so I head through East St. Louis. And I turn on my GPS because at this point, once I get off the highway and I'm out into the thing, they do have some detour signs, but they're not very reliable, because even in East St. Louis, a lot of times the street signs have been torn down. If you're familiar with that phenomenon. So in certain kind of depressed neighborhoods, it's pretty customary for people to tear down the street signs so that people can't respond with any kind of quickness. I mean, with GPS now, it doesn't matter that much, but they're all still down, right? So I turn on my GPS and I'm going through, and I'm heading up. So it takes me like right through the middle of East St. Louis. And I'm looking out ahead. I mean, there's just a line of cars because they're all coming up the highway. It's like a funeral procession or something. No pun intended. And I'm watching it, and all these cars ahead of me are swerving. They're like swerving to the right, going all the way over into the other lane. They're swerving to the left, like off the shoulder. And it's just randomly, these cars at one point are going back and forth. It's just bizarre. And I'm like, what could this be? What could be happening up there to make these cars, go in random, not follow each other? We've been following each other for, a good half a mile or something. Now all of a sudden they're swerving. Well, I get up to where that activity is happening, and there's this elderly woman in the street, kind of half wearing a COVID mask, and she is literally chasing cars off the street. So she's shaking her hand, she's yelling, I don't know what, at the top of her lungs, and as fast as she can. She's quite old. I would guess that she was in her 70s. She is literally chasing cars to each side of the street. She's kind of in the middle of the street. She'd chase them to one side, then they go around her, and she'd chase them to the other side. It was one of the most bizarre things I think I've seen in a while, is this woman chasing cars. And she's not, formidable. She's the 70-year-old woman in like her house dress, yelling at cars in the middle of East St. Louis. And I thought, what a detour. What an interesting detour. Thankfully, nobody hit her. She didn't get hurt. But she was doing this. I mean, I passed her. Thankfully, she was chasing another car, and I passed on the other side. And then she started going back the other way for the car behind me. But I went around her, and I checked my rearview mirror, and she was still doing it for, like all the cars I could see, chasing them. And then what happens is then you get to the end of that street, put you back on the highway, past the construction, and you go on your merry way. But I don't know what would make a person want to chase the car in the middle of the afternoon on a Saturday, but apparently we were invading her space, and she wanted the world to know about it. So, everybody's got a purpose. Don't give up on your purpose, right? Even if it's just to chase cars out of the street. You can get it done. I have faith in you. So hopefully Miles will be back next week. We'll get a full show. And until then, go check out the old shows. And we'll catch you next time.